Hey YouTube, this is Bitstream here, bringing you another profit trailer video. Looking to make some gains. Today, I'm going to be talking about PTMagic. So this is a relatively new add-on for profit trailer that gives you some functionality that you otherwise don't have, such as being able to analyze your sales, being able to adjust the bot automatically for certain market conditions, calculate DCA levels appropriate for your balance and settings, and a few other things. There's a lot going on, and it's kind of a beast, honestly, especially to be free. It's a beast. So I've been using it for a few days, and I wanted to go ahead and share my initial thoughts on it and maybe take you guys through some of the setup and see where it goes from there. So we'll be talking about that in this particular video. Of course, you guys can feel free to ask questions. My Discord is up and running, so that might be a better place to have a discussion or ask questions or to get assistance. Of course, outside of the PTMagic and Gnome Discord and all of that kind of stuff, if you want to have further discussion. And speaking of Gnome, hi Gnome. I noticed that he just subscribed to the channel the other day, so welcome to the channel. Thank you, I appreciate it. It's an honor. And we will go from there. So let's check it out. And just so everybody knows, I am running this on a Mac. I'm running this on my own computer and not a VPS. So it might be a little bit different for a lot of other people as far as especially the setup and everything like that. So that might be helpful to some other people out there to see it on a Mac, but it does work. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get into it. So this is the dashboard of PTMagic, and I'm currently running right now what is the latest version, which is 1.1.1. We can see up here we have the price of Bitcoin currently, your current balance that you have in the bot. This is inclusive of your alts as well. So this is your total balance in BTC. So not just only your Bitcoin balance, and then your current setup. So this is your profile that you have set. Mine is called Tanking Down. This is one of the default setting names. So when the market condition is basically tanking, this is like the reddest condition that I have set right now. So if we come back over here, you can see the different areas that you can click on. You've got what your active setting is right now. So you get to name these. If you don't like this particular name, you can name it something else, and you can change all of that stuff. Sometimes you'll see like a little yellow triangle right here. And if you hover over it, what that is, it's protection against the bot or the PTMagic constantly changing your settings. So like if you have it set to do a different profile when the market's down, say 5%, and the market is floating between 4.9 and 5.1, it won't be constantly changing your settings every single minute. You can set it for like a timeout to say, okay, it has to stay here for at least 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever before it changes to another profile. So this tells you the last time it was run, how long it's been, or the last length of the runtime. Not exactly sure what that means, but here's how much time it's been since the setting switched last. And not exactly sure what that means, but I haven't really looked at that yet. And these are my active market settings based on my profile. It's in this particular setting, it's a little bit deceiving because in Tanking Down, by default, it has it set to sell only mode. So these settings don't really matter at the moment. Well, the sell settings do, but the buy settings don't. But for all your profiles, you can kind of see what the bot is set at a glance right here. So I do like that. That's pretty cool. This is just a visual representation of the different markets that you have the bot set to, or PTMagic set to. So these are just different markets that I care about, or different time frames. So for example, exchange 15M, for me, I set that name, but that stands for the coins on the exchange in the last 15 minutes, with Bitcoin as the base pair. What has that particular market and time frame done? And then I also have all Binance 1 hour. So this is all of the altcoins in Binance for the last hour. I've got Binance versus the USD for the last hour, so I can see how the altcoins are doing versus the dollar for the last hour. I set that so I can kind of keep track of how my bags are doing, and if they're, losing dollar value or gaining dollar value, and so on and so forth. So that's what all of these numbers and all of these lines kind of represent. And that's also represented over here, which I'll get to in just a moment. The sales overview, I think, is very helpful. So you can see how many sales that you've done, the profit that the sales made in Bitcoin, the dollar profit value, and then the percent gain. So you've got today, yesterday, and the last 7 days total, and then your overall total based on how long your logs are in your bot. It's recommended that you set the logs for like a ridiculously long number so it can just keep a lifetime number. I went ahead and did that. You don't have to, but that's what this number is coming off of. And then your market trends. So this is what your PTMagic is going to be basing your profile off of. So however you have it set and however many triggers that you have, this is what it's basing that off of, these particular markets. So we'll get into it a little bit later, but you can say, okay, all Binance 1 hour, if that is down by 0.5%, and then exchange 24 hours is down by 3%, set this particular profile, and I want these particular settings to be active. So it's very powerful in that sense that you can set it up to have triggers to say all of these conditions must be met for this particular condition to be set over here. So I have some set that aren't too far off from the default, but that's why this section over here is kind of important. And then you can also get a bird's eye view of how the markets are doing in general. So it might be up today, but for the last 15 minutes it might be down or something like that, indicated that the market is about to turn, or all those kind of things. So you can set those here. Now this markets number is how many coins that this particular indicator is looking at. So for this one, for example, I have this one set to be looking at the top 50 coins by volume in Binance. So that's why it says exchange 15 minutes. So the top 50 coins by volume on Binance for the last 15 minutes. And then you got your time frame right there. And this right here is a profit graph in USD. So you can kind of keep track of how much your bot is making in dollars per day. I don't think or know if they have a setting to adjust that to Bitcoin. But mine is set for dollars, and I'm fine with that for right now. All right, so if we keep on going to the sales analyzer, go ahead and jump over there. All right, so you can get a good analysis of how your bot is performing. It's got some cool information. So you've got your total sales, your average sales per day, average per month, and all of that kind of stuff. So you can kind of see where you're trending, what your profit is trending, your US dollar value is trending, all of that good stuff. What your average per day is. Mine is kind of skewed because there was I was messing around with the bot very early on, and then also we had the big drop last weekend, and it's kind of tanking this weekend as well. So I've heard, I think I heard from Crypto Face that the weekends are very bad, and it turns out it seems like he's right so far, but weekends seem to be terrible. But This is just the average across all of the days and your average per month and everything like that. But like I said, I don't have a huge data set yet, but I could see after a while that could be very nice to see. So you can get an average of how you're doing, so you can see if you need to adjust or not, and get a bird's eye view of everything. This is really cool as well. So this is a balance predictor. So based on these averages, what can you expect in the future? So that's really, really cool. Let me see. This is your average sales number. So how many sales you're pulling off per day. So you can see a graph of that. And then this is the same graph as we saw on the front page where you're profiting US dollars and everything like that. So your last 10 days of activity, you kind of get a good idea of what you're doing and what you're trending that way, so you can see every day. And then your last 10 months, so this is like a monthly average of everything, or a monthly total of what you're looking at. And then these are your best top 20 coins. So I'm not sure if I think this is sorted by your US dollar profit. But this is really cool. So you can see your best trading coins. And like I thought before, I was confirmed that DigiDAO, whatever, is my best coin. What I didn't expect is this particular coin. I don't even know what that is, but this is my second best coin. So you can get a good idea of what the best performing coins based on your settings are right from this particular area. So that's really cool. If you go to market trends, this will show you all the coins on your particular exchange. So you've got what's TRA? So trading status. So a check mark here means that you are trading or able to trade this coin. Sell only mode, if that particular coin is in sell only mode for whatever reason, via your settings of the PTMagic or whatever. Are you allowed to DCA with this particular coin? So if there's some coins that you don't want to DCA, you can kind of see here. The coin name. And this will take you to trading view if you click that, so you can actually see the actual chart. And then it's got 3 columns of your particular markets that you set, like on the front page where you had like 15-minute and all that good stuff. So you have 3 of those particular columns right here. I'm not sure how to control this yet as far as which markets that it shows. It's probably in the settings somewhere. I'm not sure. I would like to see control over how many columns that we have as well. But you can kind of see an idea of the different markets that it has for each coin. So you can just kind of peruse through and see if you have any pump coins. Now, what's also cool is that if you enable pump and dump protection for PTMagic, it'll show you, I believe in this middle column, if the coin is in sell only mode because it invoked pump and dump protection. So you'll see sometimes, I don't think I have any today, but sometimes you'll see some coins in here. It'll have a check mark just like that with a little triangle next to it. And then you'll hover over that triangle, you'll see pump protection. So for example, like Neo was up like crazy yesterday and the day before. It was up like 20 and 30%. It was in sell only mode automatically because it invoked pump and dump protection. So you don't have to sit there and sift through pump coins individually, or make kind of fiddle with the bot settings to say, okay, I'm only gonna trade things with a certain amount of spread or a certain amount of volume to protect yourself from pumps. This will actually see the pump per coin and put it automatically in sell only mode per your settings, whatever you think or want to set a pump to look like. So it's got every coin, and you can kind of go through and see the different markets. And I think this is really cool too for bags, because for example, I'm sitting in a bag in this particular coin right now, and this, once I get the settings right, I can see, okay, do I think it makes sense to let this coin go at a loss, or do I want to hold on to it and see if I can get a recovery. Is it really sucking against the rest of the coins, or is it, on par or whatever? You can make some decisions that way. So I think that's really, really cool. In your DCA calculator, this, I'll go ahead and say this up front. This is a little bit of a controversy when PTMagic came out. This looks like a spreadsheet that was made by JB in Gnome's Discord. It's got pretty much the same functionality. So there's a little bit of controversy around intellectual property and copying, somebody else's work and all that kind of stuff. I'm not sure where I fall on that. I mean, at the same time, there's only so many ways to kind of represent it, and math is math. If they did get the idea from JB, I think it would have been nice to say, hey, thanks JB, or say, hey JB, I'm gonna, I got the idea for this from you. Is it okay do you have any issues with me putting it in there? That would have probably been nice, but whatever, this right here will show you how many DCA levels that you can cover. And what's nice about it is it automatically plops in your settings from the bot in here, so you don't have to kind of fiddle with it to see, okay, how many DCA levels can I cover based on my balance and settings and everything like that. They're automatically pulled in, and you can see how well you're covered. So right now, I believe 100% covered, or a little bit more than 100% covered of my DCA levels, because I don't really have a lot of DCA levels right now. But I can cover everything based on my DCA levels. Now you can come in here and fiddle with it. And, let's say if I wanted to add more pairs or add more DCA levels and all that kind of stuff, and it will tell you exactly, where you stand as far as, are you going to be able to cover everything if everything DCAs to the max, and then balance needed and everything like that. So like I said, this is very, very similar to the spreadsheet that we already had from JB. So I can definitely understand where those concerns come from. But I'm not here to kind of get into that. So this will help give you an idea, are you overextended or not? So that's very handy to have. This is actually new. This is like a settings tab. I haven't actually even clicked on this yet because this is new as of this version. But let's see what's in here, see if we can see it. I believe this is like the settings tab in Profit Trailer, so where you can make changes to the files directly from the interface. So let's see. In this area, you may change settings on your general JSON file. Please use with caution. You can save here directly. Okay, so you can make changes. Normally, you would have to do this through a text editor, but you can actually change these settings right here. So that's pretty cool. I haven't done it yet. Haven't messed with it yet. Like I said, first time I'm looking at it. So maybe I can go through some of the settings, because I was going to go through the file, but maybe it's easier to just go through some of the settings here. So is enabled, should be obvious. Test mode. I believe this is what you use if you don't want the PTMagic to change any of your settings actually on your Profit Trailer files. I do know that some people are using PT Feeder and using this as a way to display statistics. So you would basically enable test mode if you wanted that to happen, because this does not play nice with PT Feeder, because both of them are changing your files based on market conditions, so they will butt heads. So you do not want to use this with PT Feeder, but I do know people are putting this in test mode so that they can just use the reporting for this, because I don't believe PT Feeder has an interface. So I've seen that. Exchange. So this is what exchange that you're trading on. your bot path. This looks like you have to change it in the file. So this is going to be pointing to your profit trailer bot. So it knows where your profit trailer files are. Starting balance. So this is how much you start the bot with. I just kind of threw in whatever number. I started with much less than this, but I just wanted to throw in some numbers so I can go ahead and get started. So that's why some of my numbers might be a little bit skewed on the other screens, but close enough. You can put in the file, you could say, okay, I started with like 0.01 Bitcoin and then added, 0.1 Bitcoin on such and such a date and get accurate reporting, but I didn't really care that much. Always load default before switch. So this right here, I think is pretty important. So you have a default file, which I'll show you in a minute, where this is like your default settings. What the bot will do is it will switch to the default file before switching to another profile. And basically what that does is it zeroes out any of the changes that your last profile had, so that you're always starting with, if there's any settings that like you didn't adjust in your new profile, it's not going to leave like some of your tanking down settings for your to the moon settings, for example. It will start with your default settings and kind of zero everything before it switches to a new setting. So I think that's important to have. Flood protection. So I think I alluded to this a few minutes ago. This keeps the bot from constantly switching settings if it's teetering between one setting and another. So right now I've got mine at a 10-minute timeout. PTMagic, so instance name. So this is like the name of this particular bot, I guess. So you can change the name right here. Like if you're running like Telegram or something like that, or running more than one bot, you can name which bot is which. So like US dollar bot, Ethereum bot, whatever. Password protected. This is new as the latest version. So you can assign a password to sign in. Your port that you're trading with, you can change that in the file if you, for whatever reason. Graph interval minutes. So I didn't even see this in the setting, but apparently you can change the points in that those graphs on the front page and how many seconds it takes to refresh. So this is on the monitor page, so it'll refresh every 30 seconds. You can change that if you want. You can adjust when you click on the different coins. You can set it to either go to trading view or go to the exchange. How many markets that you're going to be showing in your sales analyzer. So this right here is your coins, so your top coins that you're trading. So remember, I had my 20 best coins. This is where you can adjust that number. I didn't see that in the file either. So you've also got your backup if you want to set your backup, and then your Telegram settings if you have a Telegram setup. So I haven't put mine in there yet, but I could if I wanted to right there. So that's really cool. Analyzer. Let's check this out. This is really the one that I'm interested in. Oh, coming soon. Okay. So they're working on putting the analyzer file in here. So that's really cool. So they've already got that set. That'll be really, really nice because this is where the rubber meets the road, in my opinion. So we'll actually go over there right now. So these are the actual bot settings and everything. So if you're running a Mac, you're going to be running PTMagic through terminal, just like you run your profit trailer, just through a different terminal window. And I'll be honest, I'm not the most tech savvy programmer in the world, so I honestly didn't know that you could have more than one terminal window open, but you can. So you just open a new terminal window and do all this stuff. So this is actually PTMagic, this particular window right here. So this is currently running, and you'll see it every couple seconds. do some stuff and, adjust and all that kind of stuff. This purple text, I'm not sure why that is coming up, so I'll have to talk to the guys about that, see what's up with that. But it's saying that my market trends are being ignored or whatever, but I'm not sure why it's saying that, so I have to go back through and figure that out. But it's working. It's doing what it's supposed to do, even though I'm getting that warning. But yeah, if it once it's running, you'll see it in very light colored text, and it'll do its thing, and just run. And then it's got a separate window for the monitor, which we just went through. This is a separate terminal window, and the monitor runs right here. This one will not constantly update. This just kind of sits there. At this looks just like that all day long, and it won't change. So those two both are running, and that's what enables PTMagic. And then you also have your standard profit trailer feeder script up and running somewhere else. So you'll have three. And then if you get PT Tracker, then I guess you'll have four. I couldn't get Tracker working yet. It's not Tracker's fault. It's another program that they depend on, but I do want to try out PT Tracker because that looks really cool. And this right here, I'll get into that a little bit later. So the files that are important with PTMagic. So PTMagic, there's basically three settings files that are going to be important that you normally make your changes through. So this particular file, this is the settings.analyzer. This is the one that they have coming soon in the interface, but this is basically what the file looks like. So this is where the rubber meets the road. And just really quick to show you, this is the file that we just went through in the PTMagic. So that is the general file right here. So all of these changes can be made through this script right here. And what's nice about it is it does have descriptions right in the file itself. So these comments tell you pretty much what that particular trigger is doing. Now, a quick note for all the non-programmers out there like me, this comma right here, don't delete that. You're going to need that for it to work properly, because if you delete it, then it throws off the rest of the code that's underneath it. That's not a good thing. So leave the comma behind each one of these commands, okay? So yeah, so that's what we just went through. Now this is the settings analyzer. So this is what is powering the different profiles and powering the bot to change the settings while the market is going through its fluctuations, right? So the things that you're actually going to be changing are in the green and in the orange. And I don't know what text editor that you're using, but this particular one is Brackets. It's free. You can download it for Mac. But yeah, so these are the things that you're actually going to be changing, like in the orange, okay? So number of hours of store market data. So I've got, this is just default, interval minutes default to 1 minute. Exclude main currency true. So basically when it's analyzing the markets for trends, it's going to be excluding your base pair, or your base currency, excuse me. So it's excluding Bitcoin. So all the numbers that we're seeing for markets are based on the altcoins. And you do that because you don't want Bitcoin to skew your numbers to say, oh, the market's flying high right now. Well, maybe only Bitcoin is flying high right now and everybody else is tanking, which happens all the time. So you do want to go ahead and turn that to true for that reason. Here you are naming the different markets, or the different market time frames that you're paying attention to. So name. So that's where we're getting, if I go back to dashboard, that's where we were getting the names of those different, the different parameters that we were looking at from. So like these all right here, correspond to name right here. So you can change it to be whatever you want. I believe spaces are okay, but I just, left it to whatever it was. Platform, coin market cap. So again, this is very cool. They have the comments right in the code, so you know exactly what you're doing. Platform, you're either going to get the numbers from your particular exchange or you're going to get it from coin market cap. So you can adjust that right there. Max markets, it tells you that it's the top 24-hour volume coins right here minus your base pair or your base currency. And then this is the amount of minutes that this particular name is going to be representing. So this is a 15-minute trend for this particular indicator. Okay, so I've got it named 15 minutes, and then I have it 15 minutes right here. And this number, again, is in minutes. So if you come down here, you can see 6 hours, 360 minutes is 6 hours. Okay, so that's what that means. And you can have as many of these as you want. So I think it comes with like 3 or 4, and I added some down here. Market, that represents whether you're looking at your is the trend against Bitcoin or your base currency, or is it against the US dollar value? So you can put market there to have it against your base currency, or you can put fiat to have it against the dollar. So that's pretty cool that you can choose that. And that's why I have some that are like versus the US dollar and some that aren't. All right, so now that you have your different indicators set up, on the next setting where it says global settings, this is where you start to use those indicators to determine what your bot is going to do as far as adjustment based on is the market tanking or whatever. You start to utilize those right here. So if you pay attention to this area right here, I believe it goes down to here. So this area right here, this is my setting for end of the world. This is a default setting, so that's just how it came. Trigger connection and. So this is very important. So what this is going to say is that all of the conditions in this area have to be true for this particular setting to be invoked. Okay, if you change that to or, then only one of these has to be true for this to be invoked. So that is a very nice choice that they gave us, and you can have as many of these settings as you want. So if I wanted to, I can also have another set of this to say, I don't know, like Armageddon, and then have it to say or, and then if the exchange is down 50% in 1 hour, or 90% in 2 hours or whatever, then Armageddon would be triggered or something like that, right? And I can have that in addition to this setting. So you can go as deep as you want, but that's basically what this means right here. And then you put your parameters. So my 1 hour chart or 1 hour trend, as long as that is below, at 0 or below, then that counts as a true parameter. Okay, so max change means that is as high as it can go for that to be true. So if the exchange in 1 hour is up 0.1%, then end of the world will not be invoked. Okay, now if we come down here to the next one, you see this next parameter, exchange 12 hours. So if within 12 hours the exchange is down by a maximum of 1%, so that means 1% or less, then it's a true statement. So both of these would have to be true to invoke end of the world. And in addition, in 24 hours, if the exchange is down a maximum of at least 5% or less, then the condition is true. So all three of these have to be true. Once all three of them are true, then end of the world will be invoked. And whatever my settings for end of the world will be written into my profit trailer. Okay, so I know when I got into it the first time, I was kind of confused by what max change meant. That's what max change means. So all the way from negative 100 to negative 5 is max change, right? Min change, which we'll see later, is the opposite of that. Okay, so don't let it confuse you too bad. So this max change means 5% or less. That's the maximum height that it can go for this statement to be true. So if it's negative 4, it won't be true. Negative 1 won't be true. Plus 5 won't be true. Anything 5 and below, negative 5 and below will be true. Okay. So this next little area, this is going to write into your actual profit trailer settings. And you can put as many settings in here as you like. What I have is for it to set sell only mode to true. So if all of these conditions are true, then it's going to put the bot into sell only mode. This is a mute point, doesn't really matter. This is also a mute point, doesn't really matter for my bot because my DCA properties obey sell only mode. But you can see here, you can build this out in your pairs property, your DCA property, and your indicators property however you want. And any setting that's in your pairs property or whatever property, you can change right here. All you have to do is put that particular setting in quotations and then colon and then whatever you want the property to change to. Now, if it's in the same file, so like both of these are in the pairs property, make sure you put a comma to separate the next line. So if I wanted another property below here, I have to put a comma to tell this file that it's moving on to the next setting. And you can just basically just copy and paste to make sure that you have it right. Now the last one on the line doesn't need a comma, but you have to put a comma to separate different commands. Otherwise it won't work. And in brackets, you can see it changes color, so you can know it's not right because it just changed the color. So you have to put your comma there. But yeah, I could list out whatever settings that I wanted to. So if I had coin specific settings, I could list those there. So instead of all, I could put ETH, BTC, trailing profit, whatever. So you can get down into the weeds as much as you want in this particular file for these particular settings. So there's a ton of possibilities that you can have here. If I wanted to, I could also add the indicators property below this to have, let's say I wanted a longer time period or something, which I think I actually do later. I could put that there. Okay. So this is what will happen. These settings down here, what will happen if all of these are true. Okay. Now, moving on to the next one. This is also a default setting, tanking down or whatever. Same thing, max change. Now here we also have min change, okay? So what this means is it has to be at least -5. So this is -5 and up, right? So min change is and up. This number and up to a maximum of -3. So these two commands together basically mean between. So if the market is between -5 and -3, and these other conditions are true, then it's going to switch to tanking down mode. And that's the and. So all of these have to be true. If it was or, then only one of these would have to be true. And then it would go invoke these particular settings. It will overwrite these settings. So these are my settings for tanking down. So I've got a longer buy value than I usually run. My trailing buy is still 2.2, excuse me. Trailing profit, I did shorten that a little bit. And then all sell value is greatly shortened as well. So that's very low for me. So that means I'll accept a 0.3% profit in these conditions. And my trailing buy for my DCA, I've lengthened that a little bit. So this is a little bit longer than I normally run. And then my EMA period. So this is bringing in the indicators property now. So now my period is 15 minutes here, where normally I run a 1 minute chart. So I think this is because I think in a down market, I want a longer indicator period, a longer chart period, to get a wider view of the market and look at the really lower coins versus just the ones that happen to be low for that moment, because I think there's a higher probability I'll get caught in a bag. So this is very important to me. And I think, I don't know yet, but I think this is what has helped me avoid some of the bags lately that I've got into last week and before I started using this. So when the market is dropping rapidly, I'm looking at a longer view than I normally would at the 1 minute chart. And as if you listen to my other videos, you will see me say I think that was a weakness of using the 1 minute chart, is that it's irrespective of tanking markets. So this is me addressing that weakness right here automatically, so I don't have to keep fiddling with the bot all day long and watching the market, trying to catch it before the market drops. It does that automatically. Love that. Bear sighted. This is also a default setting. Same story here. So between -3 and -1. And max change here, what this is saying is that, you know, if the market within the last hour is up 1% or less, then it will go ahead and initiate bear sided, and it also has to be down here. So it's not, what this is saying is that the market isn't like deep red or anything like that, but it's kind of low overall. It might be starting to improve, but it hasn't really improved yet. It's still kind of down. So you can fiddle with these settings as well. And then here's my settings for that. So I've shortened up my chart to a 5 minute chart now instead of a 15 minute chart. And there are my settings. So I've got a much more conservative buy value. I'm accepting a little bit more profit on my trades. And there you have it. Ready for liftoff. So this is going to be in a medium to up market, and then my settings follow there. And then to the moon, it's been in this particular setting a couple times over the past few days. You can see the parameters that it has to meet, and my settings there. So I'm looking for a lot more profit when it's in a mooning market than I normally would look for. And then between bear sighted and ready for liftoff is actually my default setting. So anything outside of the parameters listed here and above, it's going to be in default. Okay, and the way that I have mine set up is basically between bear and ready for liftoff. Okay, so my default settings will be invoked, and it will go to my original pairs property, my original DCA, and everything like that. And that other setting that we saw, it's going to write the pairs property and all of these other files. It's going to write the default setting before it jumps into a new setting, just to reset everything from a fresh slate. Okay. And pump and dump protection. So this is where you're getting your pump protection from. So this looks at individual coins and not the entire market. From what I understand. So what this is saying, this is a or statement. So not all of these have to be true. Only one of these has to be true, and it will set that particular coin to sell only mode. So what this setting is saying is against the 1 hour chart or 1 hour trend relative to what the overall trend is, if it's at least 10% or higher relative to everything else, that coin is going into sell only mode. That's a pump. Okay, and you can fiddle with this number if you want to. You can say 5% relative, whatever. I believe it comes at a default of 10%. But relative to the overall market, if that coin is 10% higher than the average of everybody else, it's going into sell only mode. Okay. And then the same thing for all of these other markets. If it's 10% higher here, 10% higher here, then it's going into sell only mode. All right. So this would have kept you out of Nano. These settings would have kept you out of Nano yesterday because Nano was up like 30% relative to the rest of the market. So it would have been a sell only mode. And like I said, this is per coin. And this right here, yeah, so this is what settings it's going to write for that particular coin. All right. So if you still wanted to trade that coin, offset percent, what this is saying is that whatever your trailing profit number is, it's going to lower that by 10%. Whatever your sell value is, it's going to lower that by 30% for this particular coin that this is true for. None of that matters in my settings because I have it just set to sell only mode. And then do you want your DCA enabled, true or false for that particular coin? And then you could put whatever other settings you want for that coin here. So once these conditions are all, or one of these conditions is true, then it's going to enable these settings for that particular coin. Okay. I know it says all, but it's actually for that particular coin. Okay. Freefall Block. Okay, so this is protection against free fall right there. This is for a particular coin as well. So all of these settings, and it says it right here, single market settings. These are for particular coins. So this will protect you against a free fall in a particular coin. So if in 1 hour, and this says absolute, so this is not relative to the rest of the market, but just if any coin falls 5%, that, within an hour, then these conditions are going to be true. So for me, it's going to go into sell only mode. So this is protecting you from free falls. Okay. So you can, raise this up. I might adjust that myself or whatever. But this is free fall protection for that particular coin. So this is also pump and dump protection as well. So if this misses for whatever reason, or, this just doesn't apply, this will hopefully catch you and keep you out of a free fall coin. Okay. So very important settings, very diverse settings, very deep settings. There's a lot to it, but it's very powerful because you can really get to the nitty gritty of, how you want the bot to run and how you would react. And that's the way I try to think of it. Like, how would I react in this particular case? What would I do to the bot settings if I was able to catch this particular market condition? Then you can just write it up in here and then you don't have to worry about it. It's not going to keep you from getting into the coins ahead of time, but it's, I think this is as good as you can get as far as trying to protect yourself from the changing market conditions. So that's how that works. The last thing is a very small file. This is just, the app settings. So this just points to your PTMagic file folder. So I know most people just put it in their profit trailer folder and then point this to it. And then that's it. You don't have to mess with anything else. And then you're done. So yeah, that is PTMagic. Now, as far as upgrading it, because I've had to upgrade it a few times and I've learned some lessons, they have it set a specific way. So when you download, it's going to be a lot of different files in there. Let me see if I can get it to pull up. So it's going to come in the PTMagic folder. It's going to come as a zip, and it's going to come unzipped to its own folder. I don't think it's going to behave. But one thing that's important is that in the PTMagic folder, there's going to be a presets folder. Okay. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to navigate down, drill down from presets into the defaults folder. And then that folder is going to be empty when you get to it. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to copy and paste your profit trailer properties files into the default folder. Because what's going to happen is that when PTMagic goes to put your bot into its default settings to wipe into a clean slate, this is where it's going to look for those settings. It's not going to look into your profit trailer folder because those have already been overwritten. It's going to go to that particular folder, and you can see that listed out right here. So default is going to be looking for the file, pairs, properties, blah, blah, blah. And this is where it's looking. Okay, so this needs to be there. If that's blank, then there's not going to be anything for this to pick up, and you're just going to sit in the last settings that PTMagic wrote. So you could be running to the moon and the market is tanking unless you put your default files here. Okay, learn that the hard way. So make sure that you put a copy. You don't move the files, but put a copy of your whatever you want your default settings to be in this file, and they will stay there undisturbed, and that's what it'll look for your default settings. That's very important. Okay, and then also when you're upgrading to a new version of PTMagic, you want to make sure that you don't overwrite your presets file, and you don't overwrite your settings analyzer, your settings general, and your app settings files. So just be careful about that. I don't think that the updates include those files by default, but just make sure that when you're doing your copy and pasting and overwriting, that you don't overwrite those particular files I pointed out. Don't overwrite these files, and don't overwrite your presets folder. Everything else you can overwrite, because if you do overwrite your settings files, then you're going to have to make your settings all over again and remember what you did, and that can be a mess if you start to get intricate with it. Okay, so it might even be a good idea to keep a copy of these files elsewhere just in case, because I've certainly overwritten these files at least 2 times. So don't be like me, be better than me. So that's all I've got for PTMagic. Up next, I'll be doing an analysis of the market in a separate video. This video is already long enough, but I think we got some good stuff out of it. Hopefully you learned something. And yeah, we'll move on. I was asked to be an affiliate for PT Tracker. So I do have the code if you're interested in PT Tracker down below if you want to try that out. It's 0.01 Bitcoin to add it. Most of the big boys are using that. I can't get mine working yet because there's a program that it's dependent on that my computer just doesn't want to play nice with. It's not PT Tracker itself. It's a different program. But once I get that figured out, I'll also be running PT Tracker. It's very cool because it's great for offloading your trades for tax purposes, because the way that you have to track your trades for tax purposes is just insane and inhuman, if you ask me. So if that is important to you, you're definitely going to need something like a PT Tracker to assist you with taxes, because you have to put the time, what the Bitcoin was at the time of the trade and all this crap. So definitely check it out if that's something that is affecting you. Links below, links to the Discord are below as well. I'm finally starting to utilize that as a medium to talk to everybody. So let's get it. All right. Any questions? follow me in the Discord, find me in the Discord, find other people in the Discord, and we'll see if we can get all this stuff worked out together. All right, guys, Bitstream out.